Exodus Stage Left, Part 1. Out of the Reeds. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." The Sands of Time.
I'd miss my insertion again. If I'd landed 1 foot lower, I wouldn't be here to tell you the story. And it was hot. That was the first thing that struck me. I looked up at a scorching sun you could fry an egg on, though actually you can't fry eggs on the sun. You couldn't even get eggs close to the sun. I look around, everything is white. White sand, lots of it. Just my damn head sticking out. The rest of me encased underneath. Paralyzed, unable to move my arms, legs, even my hands. Sweats pouring down my face. Panic creeping into my brain. I try to stay calm. After all, I've been in plenty of tight spots over the previous 200 years while fighting to present horrendous crimes throughout history, which is not a walk in the park with a piece of cake. I'm talking about stopping things like the Black Plague. Easier said than done. The sinking of the Titanic. We're still working on that one. Or, well, Celine Dion's first vocal session. Now at 280 as a trans-temporal corrections agent, I'm close to retirement. But I still love the work. Always a new challenge, a new adventure, and a new story to tell my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandkids. So let's go back to the sand.
Suddenly, I heard footsteps on the sand. Well, more like scrunches, really. Someone was approaching from behind the sand dune on my left. It was a woman, stunning in a vivid green sheath dress, her legs like the pillars of Xerxes, her skin the color of a Starbucks caramel macchiato. "Hey, will you get me out of here?" I screamed in ancient Egyptian with my last ounce of strength. She ran to me, knelt down, and began scrabbling at the sand. It was hard work, but soon my arms were free, and we began both scrabbling together, and I do not mean we were playing a board game with little wooden squares that make words. No, we were digging me out of the sands. At last, I was free. We stared into each other's eyes, lost in the mystery of the moment. "Need water," I rasped, brushing the sand from my clothes. The woman pointed behind her, beyond a sand dune, and headed that way. We labored up the incline, our feet sinking into the loose sand at every step, until at last, atop the dune, an unimaginable panorama spread out before me. There, across a huge green river, a city of white and ochre buildings stretched to the horizon. Imposing temples and obelisks rose up in its midst, and in the distance, 3 monumental pyramids stood against the azure sky. Pi Ramses. A segment of my memory clicked in. This city that would not be called Cairo for another 2,000 years. And the Nile. The eternal Nile was close at hand. I staggered down a sandy incline to the shore and waded in, falling to my knees, cupping my hands to bring the waters to my parched lips. Sated, I sat there in the shallows, exulting in the cool current lapping at my body. The woman's voice came from just behind me. "Who are you, strange wayfarer, and who was it buried you thus?" "I am called Oshalim," popped up from my installed memory. My brain's contents seemed to be on a need-to-know basis. "One who helps others," the woman said, smiling, her teeth as brilliantly white as the sands, but less granular. "Why am I here?" I looked down at my side. Perhaps the contents of my finely made leather pouch will explain better than my own poor word. I raised the flap of the pouch and pulled out a yellow parchment covered with strange symbols. It was Greek to me, but what with the desert and the Nile and the pyramids, it just didn't add up. I figured it must be Egyptian. "To tell the truth, I cannot read your script," I said, and handed it to her. She looked it over and seemed impressed. Her face reddened and she performed a ceremonious bow before me. I liked that. Oshalim Limu, you are come from Asur to treat with our great king whose name I cannot speak. I tried to remember. Asur was the Assyrian capital, and Limu was an official of some kind, a very high one. I am in your service, she said. Suddenly, a rapid, rhythmic splashing sound came from my left. Before I could even think, 2 crocodiles were on me. Still on my knees, I stopped the first with a hard jab to his snout, then followed it with an uppercut that nearly flipped him over backward. But his huge tail flexed off the riverbed and he was in my face again. More! You want more? I shouted, battle lust now coursing through my veins. He opened his big mouth and I gave him my right cross. It cost him a few teeth. He was done, turning tail, so to speak, and slithering back into the Nile. I looked at the other croc and saw fear in his eyes. You want a piece of me too? I asked. The big guy seemed to shrug his shoulders, not an easy thing for a crocodile, and slipped back toward deeper waters and easier prey.